I had to break an addictive habit of defending and vindicating myself, and the hit that I got from that. I got an emotional, psychological, probably dopamine hit from vindicating myself. I'm right, kind of like I'm doing the Rocky up on the top of Philadelphia courthouse. I'm right. I'm good. I'm the champion. Yay! I won that battle of being falsely accused. And it dawned on me, I don't think I want to do those little celebrations anymore of being right. And as I've worked on not getting a hit out of being a victim, it's funny how much less my wife accuses me of things.
Boy, we could go on and on for hours about what's the root cause of this.
Yeah.
All the way from lack of father figures. I'll tell you one thing I'm getting into more and more, simply because I have realized from hearing directly from members of my group, you may see this in your group, guys that reach out to me via email, whatever, is I often hear this concept of neurodivergence. Another term they use is neurodiversity, guys that are ADHD, on the autism spectrum, and so forth. They have a lot of relationship issues. So we see a disproportionate larger number of guys in our world that come from the neurodivergent world. And the most extreme example of that world are guys that call themselves incels. You're familiar with this? These involuntary celibate guys that are, boy, I would love to have a sexual relationship with a woman, but it has slipped through my fingers for, forever. I've never experienced that.
I don't know how to talk to a woman. So it's kind of hard to get laid if I can't talk to them.
If you can't socialize, it's really, really tough. And I tweeted here the other day, there's data that shows that the number one personality trait that predicts, I guess you could say, sexual success. If you're able to get laid, for lack of a better word, the number one predictor is extroversion. As far as personality traits are concerned. If you're a guy that puts himself out there, has very little social anxiety and stuff, you're more apt to get laid than the guy who doesn't.
Yeah. And
that really touched a nerve. And a lot of guys are like, well, I'm an introvert and I'm proud of it. And this is BS and nonsense. And then when you read the comments and more comments in there, they're getting more and more angry. And it's a lot of guys saying those extroverted guys are assholes. We had one guy that just said, well, of course, women are only attracted to psychopaths. And I thought, how interesting that we have a lot of guys that are equating extroversion, little social anxiety, low neuroticism. They put themselves out there. They've never met a stranger, one of those guys. Nothing negative about that. Yeah. But they immediately equate it to psychopathy, being a sociopath. You're an asshole, basically. Yeah. And that's what all these people are. And I say, well, there's the old nice guy mentality, isn't it?
The piece I love working with men. I'm a recovering nice guy. I can relate to many of the, maybe the complaints, the frustrations that nice guys voice. Women aren't attracted to me. I don't understand women. I just get taken advantage of. I just get put in the friend zone. I would have raised my hand to all of those things. And so consequently, if I ever did when I did get a girlfriend, I did, I'd usually just pick a woman who wasn't too attractive or too unattractive and maybe had a few problems that needed fixed. I call that nice guy seduction. I'd listen to her talk about her problems, help her out. And then I'd stay way too long just because I didn't know how to date. I didn't know how to interact with women successfully. And so I would stay in mediocre to toxic relationships for way too long. And now the good news, and again, I've worked with thousands and thousands of nice guys. That's all I do for the last 20 plus years. That's all I do is work with nice guys. I know their complaints. I know their frustrations. And I know why they have them. And I'm going to throw out something that I think will piss off a lot of people. When somebody talks about being voluntary and celibate, or MGTOW, men going their own way, or even red pill of weaponizing, evolutionary psychology against women to protect ourselves from them, basically. creating hierarchies that we put some men in this, men, these guys are red pill, these guys are blue pill, these guys are average frustrated chumps, Captain Save a Hose, all the stuff that we want to marginalize certain. I get that. And I even get that the epidemic of loneliness, that you almost can't pick up a periodical now without reading about the epidemic of loneliness. And believe it or not, a lot of that's touching on men. Used to, we kind of just ignored whatever was bothering men, but now it's actually being addressed in the media. And, with statistics that the lower educated a man is, the more he's likely to be lonely, the lower employment opportunities he has, the lesser ability he has to interact with women in a way that might lead to, I'll just say successful relationships, just meaning in terms of having a girlfriend, getting laid, getting married. The marriage rates, the age of marriage is going up. The frequency of marriage is going down. The frequency of men reporting having been in a relationship in the last year is ballooning, to saying they haven't. The study showing the percentage of men who've been laid in the last year, that's ballooning, men who haven't, especially at a young age. So statistically, we got issues. I mean, we got problems. And because I love men and I love working with men, they concern me. But here's the part that I said might really get under some people's skin. I believe most of the things men suffer with they're not victims of them. Now, I'm not saying it's all their fault per se, but they're not victims. I think many men who are lonely because they don't do anything about being lonely. Many men that don't talk to women and don't get laid and don't get girlfriends is because they're not willing to do what it takes to learn how to talk to women. And so I'm not trying to blame anybody. I'm trying to get everybody out of the victim stance here. Because being in a victim place never, ever resolves anything. Blaming somebody else for my situation will never change my situation. One of my mantras is what one man can do, another man can do. Now, it doesn't mean we have to repeat or do exactly like what somebody else does. But I've worked with enough men to know that I've worked with guys who are on the spectrum, who have severe ADHD, who are introverts, who have extreme social anxiety, who have just zilch social skills. And I've seen men take hold of good information, coaching, mentorship, community, accountability, and flourish based within whatever their own inherent limitations might be. They flourish within those. And I've seen countless other men be given exactly the same information, opportunity, tools, coaching, companionship, and just keep doing exactly what they're doing and complaining about the state they're in. So I'm just a big fan of accountability. If you're in a place in life that's not working for you, let's go find answers and let's challenge ourselves to apply those answers. And one piece I'll put out there, I say this in No More Mr. Nice Guy multiple times, and I say it pretty much on every interview, is don't try to do this alone. We men want to figure shit out and go figure it out on our own. So we don't want to be vulnerable. We don't want to feel exposed. We don't want to look incompetent. I know I'm all those ways. I always put off getting coaches or going to therapy, or whether it's a golf coach or, a life coach. I put it off because I don't want to be vulnerable and be exposed that I'm not already good at something. When I took my first salsa class, it was a 1-hour class, and I wanted to learn salsa. There was one other guy in the class, some black guy that he just had the rhythm and could move. I had paper towels in my hands because I was sweating so profusely. I signed up for a 5-week salsa course. Didn't go to one class. Signed up for it again. Didn't go to one class. Signed up a third time. Didn't go to, but God damn it, I wasn't going to let that win. I signed up again and went to 1 or 2 classes. Signed up again. I ended up doing salsa for a few years. I probably got to about intermediate salsa. Got to where I didn't love it, so I didn't keep doing it. But it was such a great experience because my inner, I got to do this perfect. I got to do it right. I can't be vulnerable. I can't look foolish. I can't make a mistake. I can't be seen being stupid. I had to lean into that and face it. I wasn't going to let it win. So I'm a big fan. There's, we talk about what's out there. When I started my recovery from nice guy syndrome, we're going 30 years plus back. I'm 68 now. about all that was out there was the Robert Bly, Iron John, mythopoetic movement, which was cool. It's good stuff. It was a good start for a movement. And I went out in the woods and beat a drum and had a talking stick and said, ho. But that's all there was. The internet wasn't around. Amazon wasn't around. Podcasts weren't around. And I'm just so thrilled. I'm so excited. I probably do minimum of 5 or 6 interviews a week, sometimes as many as 10 or 11, which is men who have great podcasts that are helping other men who are coaching, men who have men's programs, men who have written men's books, men who, there is so much good stuff out there for men now that there is no excuse whatsoever for us not to take advantage of the good. And there's a lot of bullshit out there too. Lots of it.
Yeah.
A lot of people taking advantage of, vulnerable people. It's out there. I get accused of that. You're taking advantage of people's vulnerabilities and insecurities and fears. And I go, I'm just fucking trying to help. And yeah, I make my living at it, but there's enough good information out there and enough tools that none of us have an excuse for not rising above. We don't have to become different person. We don't have to become better people, but we can do better at everything. Everything in our lives, we can do better. I wear a wristband for my men's program. It just says do better. That's our whole mantra. We don't have to be better. We're fine. We're great. But I can listen better. I can challenge myself with my daily routines and my diet and my exercise. I can be more patient. I can set better boundaries. I can stay in communication with my friends better. We can do better. And there's enough tools out there to help us. So that's a little bit, I don't know, I'm not going to call that a rant, but there's my position, my stance. I love men. I love working with men. I'm going to work with men till the day I die. I believe in men. I believe we're changing the world one good man at a time. And we men got to get our heads out of our asses and quit complaining and being victims. It will not serve us. I get social media, the internet, the manosphere fuels all that victim mentality, but it doesn't change a goddamn thing. Like I could be a victim to the gardeners out in my front yard right now with the leaf blower going on. But fuck, we finally got a gardener to show up at our house. I joke. My mother up in Seattle, Washington, has Mexican gardeners that come to her house like clockwork every Friday. I live in Mexico. We can't get a Mexican to show up and work at our garden to save our life. So they finally showed up. I'm not going to complain about the leaf blower going outside.
Well, I can't hear anything, so you're good. You're good.
And I know we're on Riverside. You can edit it out afterwards.
That's right. So, but you're pointing out a big thing, and this is something I hear and I preach about all the time: is the victimhood thing. Now, what's working against us, though, Robert? Victimhood is contagious, and victimhood it's somewhat addictive.
Oh, it is. I love it. I love a good pity party. I've had to address it. See, everything I'm talking about, I've had to address in me, right? And for example, I've always said I won't ask one of my clients to do anything I wouldn't do. If I tell somebody, hey, go out tonight, try to get rejected by 5 women. I've done that multiple times, right? I will not, give anybody a challenge that I either haven't already done or I'm not willing to do it right with them side by side. Can you hear it now?
I heard that one.
It's closer.
That one I heard, yeah.
It's right outside my window. Good. So I get that thing about being a victim. I'll give you a personal example. I've had an ongoing pattern with my wife, who I love dearly. We've been married almost 8 years now. She's amazing human being. And we've had this ongoing pattern, and most people who know me know the ongoing story, that she's a jealous Latina. She's Mexican. And, she's never known a sexually faithful man in her life, ever. Every man she's ever known, father, brothers, exes, lovers, friends, spouses of women she's known. Everybody cheats in macho culture. The men all cheat. Now, they're cheating with somebody, so it means the women, are going along with the system as well. So the women aren't victims to it either. In fact, it's the mothers that perpetuate the macho culture. They raise their sons to be, little kings and little princes, like everything revolves around them. So that's all my wife knows. That's her world, is that, men cheat. That's what they do. So she constantly accuses me. Well, you were smiling when you looked at your phone. You must have a girlfriend. Or who are you messaging? Who are those hearts I saw on your phone? That's my guy friends. We send each other lots of heart emoticons. And so I would like defend myself, vindicate myself, feel falsely accused. And this went on, for a good part of our marriage. I got into a men's program. I got into coaching because I got triggers here. My wife has triggers. They're hers to work on. I got to work on my triggers.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to learn to ground myself, soothe myself, just hear where she's coming from, hear her emotional content, not the factual content. Stuff I knew, but it was triggering my nervous system. And then I read a book probably 2-3 years ago called Existential Kink. And a good book. I highly recommend it. It's a little bit of a shotgun woo-woo approach of different stuff. But she quotes Carl Jung frequently in the book. And one of the quotes she quotes multiple times is, having is evidence of wanting. I thought, okay. I do tend to get people in my life who falsely accuse me of stuff. What's that pattern for? What about that do I want or do I need? And I thought, I don't like being falsely accused. My dad did it all the time. Oh, that's something to pay attention to. I'm trying to be different than the bad men that women complain about. I've had previous girlfriends and wives accuse me of all kinds of stuff I haven't done. I had to ask myself, why have I invited this in my life? Why is the having evidence of wanting? Why, according to the author, why does my unconscious want this going on? And then, one of the things that I realized, I like vindicating myself. I like being right. And so almost I have to be accused of something that's wrong for me to get that self-righteous energy. That's not true. I didn't do that. I don't have a girlfriend. Those red hearts are my buddies. Look, you can look at my phone anytime. I don't have any, I know that payoff of feeling like I've been done too. I've been victimized. I've been falsely accused. This isn't fair. I love railing against that. And you're right. It's addictive. And I had to break an addictive habit of defending and vindicating myself, and the hit that I got from that. I got an emotional, psychological, probably dopamine hit from vindicating myself. I'm right. Kind of like I'm doing the Rocky up on the top of Philadelphia courthouse. I'm right. I'm good. I'm the champion. Yay, I won that battle of being falsely accused. And it dawned on me, I don't think I want to do those little celebrations anymore of being right. And as I've worked on not getting a hit out of being a victim, it's funny how much less my wife accuses me of things. It's just totally sucked the energy out of that cycle. She and I used to have almost, not unusual to have it daily, of her accusing me of something and me defending myself. Mm-hmm. And now that I quit getting a kick out of defending myself and being right, it just took the energy out of the whole cycle. So I do understand that thing of, I love being a victim. But I tell you what, it doesn't serve us. It doesn't serve the world. It doesn't serve the people we love. And we men have to deal with that whole victim mentality. It does not serve us. In fact, I'll just throw it out, if you want to dive off into masculine, feminine energies. Being a victim is a feminine energy. And that's not a negative statement towards men or women, but masculine does, feminine is done too, for good or for bad. And so it's the feminine part, energetic part of ourselves that feels victimized. And if we stay in that feminine part, we're not going to get much shit done in life because we're down in what I call our lower feminine. It's our masculine that gets things done. And so we are going to get done too. And I tell people, you can be a victim without being victimized. Shit can happen to us. I do have a leaf blower going outside of me, but I'm not going to feel victimized by it, right? So we get the choice.
It's funny you mentioned there are content creators, whatever you want to call them, that do in fact prey upon the victimhood of men and that victimhood mentality.
There's money to be made. There's status to be had.
There's people out there that will beat the drum of, yeah, you're a victim, and come on over here and I'll tell you how much of a victim you are. And then I'll sell you my coaching package, my Hustlers University package. I'll sell you, this package, and then you can turn that against them.
There's always a weaponizing of that.
There's a
against the
weaponizing,
other.
and there's always there's a villain. There's someone else to blame.
Yeah.
And in our world, the person to blame is the women in our lives. That's what I hear more often than not. None of these women can be trusted. All of these women have a vindictive. There's this undercurrent, almost conspiratorial thing. Men
Well,
tend to be more.
expand this to the whole world. I mean, even nationalism is the same thing. There's a them. The immigrants coming into our country or you hear that in almost every country nowadays. Ethnic cleansing. The immigrants are taking the jobs. The immigrants are doing this. And these people are setting the immigrants up to do it because they've got an agenda. We love a villain. Hell, I have 2 degrees in religion. Religion always has to have a villain. You got to have a devil. You got to have someone to blame everything on. The devil made me do it. The devil's why we all sin. We got to have someone to blame this shit on because it feels good.
Yeah. And it goes into very irrational behavior, which is ironic, given that so many men pride themselves on being the rational gender. I'm the engineer. I'm the one who looks at the ones and zeros. I'm not clouded by this emotional thing. It's like, yeah, you are, buddy. I have men that come to me with stats that they will tell me numbers. Well, women do this percentage of the time, this blah, blah, blah. Did you know that? This is one I did a video on recently that men come to me and say, did you know that there's the old leaf blower. That
it's getting to you now too.
Men will say, did you know
I already got the guy upstairs, our home, repair guy, to quit pounding on the concrete bathtub with a sledgehammer so we could do the call or remodeling the bathroom. But like I said, it's taken us years to get gardeners out there. I'm not going to tell them to stop.
We'll work around it. But anyway,
we'll make fun of it. We'll make light. We'll work around it. We'll have a good life in spite of it.
Comedy. Life is comedy. So I'll have guys that'll say, Ralph, are you aware that 30% of the children out there, 30%, that's not an insignificant number, are fathered by someone other than the guy who they think is
I've heard that statistic.
And I was like, boy, that sounds awful high. And all you have to do is do some digging, do some Googling, and you're like, that is nowhere near.
All right, I'll quit giving that statistic then. I've heard the same thing.
Well, but here's the kicker. Who says this? Well, people that do paternity testing. Well, let's further qualify this. Somebody who's bringing their kids into a clinic saying, I want to test this kid to see if he's genetically mine.
Probably have a good reason to do
it. There you go. Right away. Yeah.
I know. Nobody in my family has red hair. I just can't explain why my kid, freckle-faced redhead.
There you go. But when we do genetic testing of the population at large, and there are some studies that do this, they look at genetic data and so forth, and they determine that it's the real number, and there were 2 separate studies that did this. The real number is between 1% to 2%.
Yeah, so there's some women out there that cuckold their partners. Yeah, it happens.
1% to 2%. That's it. It's not 30.
That's what I'm talking about when we weaponize things. Like a term that somebody completely pulled out of their ass. If you look up the history of it, the term hypergamy.
Yeah.
Someone pulled it out of their ass. Said this is a cool sounding word, and it makes women sound evil and bad. And so, you can't swing a dead cat without bumping into hypergamy on the internet. Everybody sounds smart because they like to use the word hypergamy. And, they base it on evolutionary psychology, and all women are always going to trade up to the next richest guy. They're always out to get us. And fuck, women marry losers and stay with them all the time. They marry drug addicts. They marry unemployed men. They marry guys in prison and stay with them. If you actually look around, you don't really see all that much hypergamy. Now, do you see women in general being security-seeking creatures? Yeah, as I heard David Data say one time. If you give a woman the choice of a man who has the looks of George Clooney, the heart of Jesus, and we've got 2 guys they can pick from. They're both identical in that, their good looks, the heart of Jesus. One has the money of Bill Gates, and the other's the town pauper. Which one will they choose? No brainer, because they'll pick the guy with the money. Of course they would. They're not stupid. But again, to weaponize that, we could turn the whole thing around and say, well, look at men. All men do is they keep going down to the next youngest person that they could find. I've done that. I joke with my friends. My wife Lupita, I think, is starting into menopause at 47. I'm on my third marriage, and I my friends will go, "Oh yeah, it's a bitch going through menopause." I go, "I've never done it. I've always traded down before I ever got there." Now that was not an intentional pathway for me. It just kind of worked that way. So we men have our patterns. Yeah, if you boil it down, what are men attracted to? Barbie dolls. What are women attracted to? Ken. Okay. That's not rocket science, but that doesn't make anybody evil or out to get anybody. Are there some gold digging women out there? Yeah. Who funds them? Us. Are there women out there? I just learned about, what is it? OnlyFriends? Is that what it's called?
OnlyFans?
OnlyFans. I don't even know the name of it. I had Mark Farabee come on my program last night. He's done like some documentaries about it, and the whole sugar daddy thing. And men will complain, well, women, they just have to be good looking, and they can make $30,000 a month on OnlyFans and this and that. Guy, who's paying them? Who's opening up the wallet, taking out the credit card, and giving these young women who are smart enough to take the money? Who's paying them? Who's the victim here? Right? There are no victims. We're co-creating the systems that we complain about. So anyway, we're talking about statistics.
Yeah, and not only that, this is a tale as old as time. It's the world's oldest profession, sex work. That's because there's always going to be a sex drive. It's every living creature has a sex drive. Every living thing has an imperative to procreate after its own genetic makeup. So of course that's always going to be taken advantage of. Mm-hmm. Now, kind of going back to the victim thing, you've probably seen this. There's nothing worse than a super intelligent guy, a highly intelligent guy who feels like he's been victimized and is passive aggressive. Those guys can be just out and out monsters, out and out mean. And again, I love men, but almost the more intelligent and the more data and information you can give somebody that who already feels victimized and done to, they're going to go out and wreak havoc in this world. And that does scare me. That does scare me. The victim mentality, when we get like school shooters and things like that. Now that's mental illness. But it's mental illness to think getting a gun and killing a bunch of people is a logical step to take. But it's not a large step away from just walking around feeling done to and victimized and being, judgmental of everybody out there because, oh, they seem to have the good life. I don't. They must, it must be their fault I don't have a good life. Or, she's a pretty woman. How come she won't talk to me? It's her fault that I'm lonely. That stuff's just not only not going to get us anywhere, it can take on highly destructive proportions. Oh, yeah.
And that does concern me, which is another reason why I want to empower men out of that space. And I'll go back to where most of these situations are of our own making. Now, I will add to this. Our ancestors had something, and you know all about this and understand it. Our ancestors got taught how to live an adult masculine life by their fathers, the men in their tribe, their ancestors. They were initiated. They were taught to get comfortable feeling uncomfortable. They were taught to break out of that seeking of female validation. They were taught, the hierarchy of how things work and what you have to get good at to succeed in this world and to get what you want. And unfortunately, that's not happening. It didn't happen much for my generation, baby boom generation. It didn't happen for the millennials. My son's a millennial. He just turned 39. A lot of the young men, you mentioned the, estrangement from our fathers. When I started working with nice guys, a lot of guys said, well, I just wasn't close to my dad, or my dad wasn't around, or he divorced my mom, or he worked all the time, or he was an alcoholic. Or nowadays, the thing I hear most often is men, millennials, saying, my dad was a nice guy. And all he taught me was, don't piss off your mother.
Yep.
Because that's what he was trying. That was his goal in life. Don't piss off the woman he's married to. So a lot of guys tell me that, and now you've got the Generation Z, that from the time they were 3 days old, their parents stuck a smartphone in their hands, and they've been entertained by smartphones. They've had information pushed to them from the day they were born. And that's the world that they live in. And they may be the most informed generation that's ever walked this planet, but they don't have skills because they're always looking at their phones. I can't get a man of age 35 or below I can't get him to take social media apps off his phone. Just take them off your phone. Leave them on your computer. You do social media. Do it on your computer, not on your phone. They get a deer in the headlight look. What will I do if I can't be scrolling Instagram or on X or doing this on, the swipe right? They've just grown up with this stuff. And so it's not their fault. I mean, we gave them this stuff. We put these phones in their hand. We pushed the information to them, whether it's the porn, the social media, the videos, the Netflix, the YouTube, and nowhere in there are they required to do anything that develops any sense of mastery in life. They just keep consuming. And so it's not really their fault. I don't like the blame thing. I don't like to victimize anybody. But I think I love what you're doing. I love what I'm doing. That's why I do 5 to 6 to 10 interviews a week. If I get asked, I do them because we got an important message we've got to get out there that men like you and I are helping these younger generations find skills to actually get what they want in life. And typically you don't get that just binging out on Netflix and Instagram and porn and TikTok. Oh, that's right. You're a TikTok influencer. We won't go there. So
I'm on all of them.
You have done well, haven't you?
I'm on all of them. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
120-some-thousand followers on TikTok or something like that.
You're the man. You're the man. You inspire me. Every time I talk to you, I go, okay, I'll give it another try. And I go, fuck, this drives me crazy. It keeps pushing me stuff that I don't want to see, and I can't make it stop. It just keeps pushing me stuff.
Yeah.
So I love the work we're doing. I love the work you're doing. So, I mean, I praise you.
Thank you. And of course, the feeling's mutual. I mean, I think you were one of, if not the first person I reached out to when I started having a little bit of success in this. I wanted to do the podcasting thing. Dr. Robert Glover. I got to reach out to him. I want to reach out to guys who've been there and done that are well respected in their field, and you're at the top of the food chain when it comes to that. So thank you for everything that you've done. And talking about this social media feed and everything, what makes it more nefarious is that not only is this
I love that word. That's a good word.
Isn't it? Not only is it distracting, not only is it just kind of like junk food for the brain or whatever, but what does it put in front of you? The things that you're interested in. These programs are extremely smart. Oh, you have an interest in misogynistic content? You have an interest in victim content? Here's more of it. Yeah. And it's an endless
echo chamber. Just get more of whatever you look at, you're going to get more.